Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for March 8th, 2021. I will call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Garner.
That motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1, minutes of the regular meeting of council, February 22nd, 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, meeting minutes for February 22nd is before council for consideration.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Tams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on February 22nd, 2021 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.2, minutes of special meeting of council, February 23rd, 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Before you are the minutes from February 23rd for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship. I'll make the motion that the minutes of the special meeting of the council, February 23rd, 2021, be adopted as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 4, business arising from minutes there are none. Item 5, bylaws. Item 5.1, proposed bylaw 12-2020 intermunicipal development plan, second and third reading. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, maybe I'll call upon Ms. Monks to explain this to council, but I believe this particular bylaw has gone through the first reading.
All right, thank you. Ms. Monks.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. So as council is well aware, the intermunicipal development plan represents over 2 years of work for our administration and council and that of the MD of Taber. On February 23rd, 2021, a joint public hearing was held with the MD of Taber Council, and following that public hearing, at the regular meeting of MD Council, second and third reading of the bylaw was given. With your endorsement today, the Town of Taber will be in compliance with MGA amendments made 3 years ago. Additionally, this provides us with sound planning principles to guide development for the future. Administration would request that Council give second and third reading to bylaw 12-2020.
All right, thank you, Ms. Monks. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion that council gives second reading to intermunicipal development plan bylaw 12-2020 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the third reading, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to move that council give third reading to intermunicipal development plan bylaw 12-2020 as presented.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth, you have a question there also? Okay, thank you. Just check. Councillor Bruin.
I just wondered who's on our committee there with the MD.
All right, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bruin, myself, Councillor Strovas, and Mayor Prokop.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Once again, we have a motion on the table for a third reading. Any further discussion? Yeah, just Councillor Beckering, if you just pull that mic down, that'll be great. Perfect. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried down, which is great. Thank you. All right, on to item number 6, action items. Item 6.1, economic relief consideration, Taber Curling Club. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, I would call upon Ms. Van Ham to walk us through this particular request.
Thank you, Mr. Orwa, and good afternoon, Council. So the Curling Club, we've received additional correspondence from them in which they're asking for Council's consideration to waive their facility lease payments until the start of their anticipated season in 2021, which will be in October. So before you is that consideration along with the monetary from a monetary standpoint. And I'm available if you have any questions, Council.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, seeing none, someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'll prepare to make the motion that council waives the Table Curling Club lease payments for February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and September 2021 due to the current COVID-19 pandemic restrictions in place as directed by the provincial government of Alberta Health Services and the cumulative financial losses endured related to the continued and reinstalled COVID-19 pandemic facility and activity closures.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.2, 2021 Annual Asphalt Patching RFP Award. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, this is just our annual asphalt patching. I don't know, is Mr. Shia or... Oh, Mr. Lahiji will be presenting this one.
Mr. Lahiji.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is part of our annual asphalt patching program, which we have $160,000 approved through 2021 operation budget. And the RFP was closed Thursday, February 18, 2021. And all the patchwork is going to be completed by August 15, 2021. I received 7 submissions from the RFP, and the evaluation team consisted of 3 administration staff and a procurement agent. And Thursday, February 18, 2021, and submission. And after evaluation, which included the background, qualification, and experience schedule, personnel or staffing, vendor history, and experience. And you can see below that there were 7 of them, and they are ranked based on their criteria. So based on this evaluation, administration is recommending the 2021 annual asphalt be awarded to Fenco Contracting at the price of $36 per square meter, excluding of GST, which we could patch a square estimated of 4,400 square meters of roads. And you can see what we had the years before from 2015.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the Council awards the 2021 annual asphalt patching request for proposal to Fenco Contracting Limited for the combined amount of $36 per meter square, exclusive of GST, expenses to be taken from the 2021 operating budget.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.3, Red Cross Agreement. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I can see Chief Munshaw advancing. Just walk us through this particular agreement, which has already expired.
Yes, thank you, Chief Munshaw.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. So what I have before you is the Red Cross Agreement. This Red Cross Agreement came forth to our Municipal Emergency Management Committee last Monday with unanimous carry. The agreements before you has expired, but is a carryover from 2020 into 2021 for the transition period. Financially, the agreement actually has an increase, and we will notice an increase per year that Red Cross is requesting. That's a $200 per year, but has also been included in 2021 annual operating budget. I'm here for any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Seeing none, someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor Garner.
I can make that motion, Mr. Mayor. The council supports the mayor and director of emergency management to sign the 2021 to 2023 Red Cross agreement.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.4, Community Emergency Management Program Updates. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, Chief Munshaw is still on the hot seat, so can you provide an update to council, please?
Thank you. Thank you again. So this is another update as an annual basis. This is a little bit larger than what you're used to seeing as a regular change of address, change of phone numbers. This one has a change to the name as well, and there's multiple different areas that were looked at and overviewed. This one came forward to the Emergency Management Committee last Monday as well, carried throughout that program, but we're here to answer any questions that council has. Although, I just want to add in, there is changing phone numbers constantly, as people will change and or can change. So if anybody does notice any changes within this contract or able to let us know on these, we would be happy to take on those new changes.
All right, thank you. Once again, any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Mr. Mayor, prepared to make a motion.
All right.
Yeah, I've studied this document extensively, Mr. Mayor, and I'm very, very happy with it, so I'll prepare to make this motion.
All right.
That council accepts the Town of Tabor's 2021 updated community emergency management program for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.5, Dissemination of Information Materials Policy, ADM 9 Renewal. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, this is just part of the housekeeping, and I can see Ms. Brennan just advance and present this one to council. So this is a policy that needs some renewal. Can you explain what's going on there?
All right,
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan.
Hello, Council. So I'll keep this quick. The Dissemination of Information Material Policy, ADM 9, is just seeking its annual 3-year renewal. This is the policy that allows us to get you your mail when it comes in and how it's delivered to you and the records therein. So administration's not seeking any changes, just the 3-year renewal.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship. As I read through this, and I realize, and there's an item that we've talked about in past, is about the opening of the mail, and and I guess all of our mail is open, but unless it's otherwise marked as personal and confidential. I've expressed my opinion on this before, that when mail comes to the councillors in town and the mayor, that it should be opened by them. I don't know how the rest of council feels about this. I think those items should be left to the discretion of council who opens them.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brown?
Are we referring to emails or mail?
Mail.
Paper mail.
Paper mail.
Yes.
Christmas cards, this type of thing.
I was just wondering about email.
No, this is...
All right. Councillor Garner.
I think it makes good common sense, especially if something is marked confidential to a councillor or the mayors. I think they should be the first one to see that, or have the possibility to see it anyway. Just a good business practice, I think.
Just for clarification, I believe that's already practiced. No, is it not? If it is personal confidential,
Yes.
that's what we're doing now, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Councillor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, what's our policy on emails?
Councillor Bruin, are you referring to emails that are sent to...
Like town emails? Are they, can the public see them, or how does it work with emails? Is that FOIPable?
I would probably defer that question to our FOIP coordinator. I would not be the expert in that.
I think in all fairness, Councillor Bruin, I'm not sure that really applies to this discussion item, unless I'm missing something, but it's a good question, but I think we'll probably have to deal with that.
Okay, I'm just sorry, I saw mails. And
is it not? Did I miss something there?
It is covered in that policy.
Email is there?
Item number 11 on that policy.
Okay, then I stand corrected, Councillor Bruin. Would you like some other clarification yourself on that then?
I'm sorry, I'm looking for item number 11.
Operating guidelines. Page 3.
So I'm seeing operation, I guess that would be 10, no, that'd be 11, right? Emails sent to official Town of Tabor addresses shall be evaluated by administrative staff as to the appropriate retention processes for each email. What does that mean?
Ms. Brennan?
Yeah, someone.
So the town does have a retention policy, so we do get a number of documents that may be sent through email that have correspondence to council, so those would be considered records of the municipality. Therefore, they would fall under that retention policy as to whether it's kept for the 7 years, whether it has to be kept in perpetuity. So your administration has to evaluate at that time what level of retention it would have.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Continuance, right?
Need a couple of questions arise before we get to that. But
I'm sorry, I was still with my question, actually. Can I call a point of order here?
Well, it depends on what you're referring to.
Well, no, you said administration can evaluate. Could you please repeat that, please?
So this,
Sorry, I'll just call Ms. Varnam to step in here for retention. Yeah, please.
Yes, Ms. Vanham?
Yeah, hello, Council. So those types of emails that we get are generally to the town at tabor.ca mailbox. They could be to my generic one admin at tabor.ca, something like that. We get a lot of notifications from, say, other government agencies. It could be municipal affairs. It could be other ministries. It could be Alberta Health Services, things like that, announcing grants. Or, we get a lot of information that way. So when it does come to the, I'm going to call it the main mailbox, which is town@tabor.ca, then we evaluate those and look to see if those hit our the town's retention bylaw and if that pertains, or if it's just a transitory record at that point, or if it's something that we, it's involving maybe a grant application or, any community groups, things like that. So that's what that means by evaluating it to see if it corresponds to the town's approved retention bylaw. I hope does that help to answer your question, Council?
That was, Councillor Barone, does that answer that question?
Yeah, basically administration has access to all town council emails.
I think
I'm sorry, that's just a question to administration.
Just if I can clarify, I think sorry, that's okay. Go ahead, Ms. Van Ham.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was we have access to our own, town@tabor.ca. There's an email address for that. My generic one, for instance, is admin@tabor.ca, which is my own email that for addressing items coming into me. So the town one is the main contact point for other ministries and such. It's advertised in I don't know, on the town's website. We get a lot of inquiries that way, that kind of thing. So it is that general email.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Van Ham. I think what happens, for clarification there, is once that occurs, then those emails are forwarded to council if that's appropriate, if that's who's named within, et cetera. Correct?
Is it sent it to council or administration, CEO?
Well, it depends on who it's directed.
Sorry,
it could be both. It could be both, but
yeah,
could be both. Yes, that's true.
I'm just meaning to understand what you said. So, any important emails would be forwarded to the CAO, or things that seemed out of order would be forwarded to the CAO, or is that not Town of Tabor's administration's business?
I think if I understand that correctly, either Ms. Van Ham or Ms. Brennan, that you're making a judgment call where that should go in that case if it's coming to that generic email, right?
Ms. Van Ham, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor Prokop. We get, probably upwards of 30 emails every day, and they're addressed to different sections of the municipality. So say, for instance, if we get a question on property taxes and, they're addressing, that is the subject, then we would forward that to the property tax department for inquiries. Or if it's addressed to chief elected official, then we would send that to council, mayor and council, things like that.
Right. All right. Thank you.
It's in the normal course of
All right.
business.
Councillor Becker, and I didn't forget some.
I'm sorry, I'm still carrying on here. So would the CAO be informed of these emails?
In our normal practice is that if something comes addressed to the CAO, like a lot of times the CAO, they have also got their own generic email, cao@tabor.ca. But if something comes through to the town email, then we would, and it's addressed to the CAO, then we would forward it through that email address, yes.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have considerable sympathy with Councillor Strovis' opinion on private and personal mail arriving at the town of Tabor with the individual councillor or mayor's name written on the envelope. I believe that should not be opened by staff.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Towns.
Would like to echo that. I also agree with that. When it comes to mail that comes through the mail that is addressed to us, should not be opened by staff.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Garner.
I echo what my fellow councilman, Mr. Beckering, said. Also, with regards to comments made by Councillor Bruin, the key phrase in that statement to me is those are evaluated on to the appropriate retention process. I don't think it talks about administration evaluating the body of the material covered in the email. I don't think that's their job to evaluate what's said in the email. It's to evaluate the appropriateness of retention. So I don't think I don't see someone screening everyone's email. I don't think that's appropriate.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Bruin.
No, I agree, Councillor Garner, but I think you have to say here the CEO had access to all emails. If there was something that was inappropriate, he may access them. Or just answer that. Like, can the CEO see our emails?
I can't speak to that, Councillor Brown. I defer to the CEOs.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brennan. The answer is no.
No.
The answer is no. The CEO is not supposed to look at the emails of council. So the answer is no, and we cannot see those things. Now, there are restrictions from the IT standpoint, and there is no way we can see council's emails. So the CEO cannot.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Chavas.
Yes, Your Worship. So just for clarification, Your Worship, and probably Ms. Van Ham will answer this here. So when you say a generic email, so to tabor.ca, so if it comes to Joe Stravis at tabor.ca, is that a generic email, or is that an email that's directed to a counselor? So is it that email that would be archived, so to speak?
No, that's a specific named email. Joe Stravis is joe.stravis@tabor.ca. town@tabor.ca is a generic email, I would call it that, because there's, it's I should say the main, not the main contact point, but just a generic contact point for the municipality. So. Yes,
so for clarification, because I think, we probably don't understand the connotation of at tabor.ca. So if it's addressed to somebody specific, that's not a generic email.
Correct, Councillor Stravis. Right. Like, so there's, so say for instance, you send an email to carrie.vanham@tabor.ca. That's specifically my email. If I move on or I'm no longer working here, or I change my name, something like that, and somebody sends an email to that email address, it's probably going to bounce back eventually. So for consideration of those things, we set up generic emails such as town@tabor.ca, admin@tabor.ca, that the information can continue to flow from all of these different municipal entities, like any of the any of the directories that the town is in. We try to put that one in there, so there's no information that is being missed. It's always coming through to a generic email address. But any specific ones, like we also have specific ones, but just not kind of a slush mailbox, if that makes sense.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roa.
So just to put this matter to rest, I would like to call upon the IT manager, because remember, you're the one who sets up these emails. Be very specific why we set them and the reasons why they're being set.
Afternoon.
Just to clarify, Ms. Van Ham is referring to a specific mailbox. It's town@tabor.ca. Only administrative services have access to that mailbox. It's public mailbox. Everyone in the world can see that on our website, and they can email admin services to that email. Then admin services take the proper action, either to forward it to council or to the CEO, etc. Each council, each employee in the town, they have a separate mailbox, their personal mailbox. Only the person have access to that mailbox. So Joe Strovas at tabor.ca, only Councillor Strovas have access to that mailbox.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thames.
Just going to ask if we could have Al explain it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
It's kind of been answered, but the town Tabor owns tabor.ca.
Correct. That's a domain. It's not a mailbox. So anything at tabor.ca, it's under our domain, and IT is controlling who have access to each mailbox.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravos.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm ready to proceed with a motion here that administration revise ADM 9, Dissemination of Information Materials, to not open mail addressed to individual council members or the mayor.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Bruin.
Do you want to include emails?
I think that was already clarified, Councillor Bruin, that the emails are proprietary to that individual, but I'm talking about snail mail, letter mail that comes in.
Well, I'm sorry, I think emails are the same. If no one sends a lot of mail anymore, but I think emails should be ranked the same way. Myself. So whatever you guys think.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thames.
Would you consider a friendly amendment, Councillor Strovas, that Council approves the dissemination of information material policy ADM-9 and revises item 10 that all mail addressed to individual councillors or the mayor opened by the individuals or councillors or the mayor?
I'll accept that friendly amendment.
Then we, as far as Councillor Bruin's question, we've just been assured by IT that emails are already treated that way. They're ours and ours alone. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't think they had the authority to open council email.
That's it, and that's what he assured us. That's that. Right now we have that. The only email that becomes in this dissemination of information is the one that is addressed to the town of Tabor. That's it. Your email, Brennan's, the CEO's, everybody else's email is addressed to an individual and is private.
Oh, absolutely, like hotmail.com, but anything addressed to tabor.ca is accessible or not?
Other than
no, I just make sure we're clear.
Well, that's Al's answer was the only email account is the one that is the generic account town.tabor.ca. So it's just that one email address that they look at. Everything else is private.
All right, thank you, Al. You want to clarify that?
Yes, everything else is private, but again, it's foilable. And we have a separate policy and procedure for the dissemination of electronic data. So the email is separate policies than this one.
All right, thank you. Friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, can we have that read back, please? Ms. Van Ham?
Ms. Van Ham, can you read back the motion, please?
Yes, I can. Sure. Just one moment, please, Council. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Strowis that administration revise ADM 9, policy dissemination of information materials, to not open mail addressed to individual council members or the mayor. And then Councillor Thames asked for a friendly amendment that it and revises item 10, that all mail addressed to individual councillors or the mayor are opened by individual councillors or the mayor. And then Councillor Strowis accepted that friendly amendment.
All right, thank you. Once again, friendly amendment motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.6, standing item. Council requests, Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship. So this is an opportunity for council to give administration any direction. And before you ask any question, I just want us to go through the outstanding items there on the board. So as you can see, the first 2 items have been there for a while, since 2018. Those are the ones related to Japan. And then the next one, the lighting on the west side of the walking path around the golf course. Again, that one is in progress. The next item, where the administration was to invite the town of Raymond representative. So we are looking forward to March 22nd, if at all they'll be able to make it. If not, then probably we might shoot for another date. And then the last one, the bottom, the council in finding template for chief administration office review. And I think we were given up to May 21. So those are some of the outstanding items there. So I'll just give it back to council if there's anything that you might want to ask the administration.
All right, thank you. Councillor Garner.
Through the mayor to Mr. Scheer, could you give us an update as to the progress being made on that walking path lighting, if there is any?
So we've contacted Fortis. We have their pricing. We've also contacted contractors for the solar lighting. We're waiting for Kiwanis to provide us their presentation. And they do want to be involved with it, so we're just waiting on them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, I have a couple of items. And I'll make the motion and then council can discuss it. Council directs administration to hire a human resources employee. And I think a community this size needs with as many employees, really needs a dedicated individual to be the human resources coordinator.
All right, thank you. Councillor Thames.
As much as I agree with you, but do we not have a HR person that we have now under a contract? Or is that a month-to-month contract or day-to-day contract?
So right now we don't have any. So what happened was we just requested our financial intern to step in to assist us, and up to now, remember, she's still an intern. She's still a financial intern until end of April. That's when we will release her to be part of the town employee. Now, before that, there was another individual who was assisting us, but she went back to school. And I think she will be completing school maybe sometime in 2022. So right now, it's just, the burden is on our shoulder, especially myself and Mr. Shia as well, to help direct that particular department.
Thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate Council Strover's concern regarding human resources coordinator full-time. I got no problem with that, but I would rather it have come from administration or ask for a recommendation from administration regarding this or not. Perhaps the administration will say, no, we're okay. I don't know. To give direction to administration to do something without prior recommendation from administration, I think is a little bit backward, but I do agree with Council Strove, we need something or somebody, that's for sure.
It's just a question for clarification, Mr. Orwa, so what was looking to be done for end of April timeframe if that position is now vacated?
Well, if after April, I expect that particular individual to get back to finance, to continue with writing for us grants and a few things that we'll be assigning from finance. So when she leaves, that there'll be nobody in there. So we're just now requesting her just to keep us going to move the paperwork until that particular position is filled.
Okay, so is that, you can tell us basically there is a recommendation to continue to fill that position on a full-time basis then?
Well, at this particular moment, I have to be very candid with council. There's a lot of stress that we're putting on that particular individual. That is not something that she's trained for, she went to school for. We're just putting her in that office to hold that particular office to help move the paperwork. But I've started seeing a lot of stress in that area, and I do not want that stress to continue. I would just like that particular individual to get back to where I know she's going to thrive and add value to the organization. And that is finance. And
so I'm hearing you correctly, Mr. Orwell, then you would like that filled yesterday with a HR trained person, preferably? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct, His Worship. And in fact, I would even move it further, not just a coordinator, but HR manager. An individual that has the capacity and the skills that can help us with all these issues that we're having with employees.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Garner.
I totally agree with what has just been said, because I think, in my mind, our most important and most valuable asset the town of Taber has is our people. It's not trackos and backhoes and road graders, computers. It's people. And we don't have anybody full-time taking care of the people. We change oil regularly and filters and all that stuff. But I think that's important that we do this immediately.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brown?
I think this is in the CAO's territory to hire staff. So I think council's overstepping their bounds here, saying who we should hire and when. So it's up to the CAO when we decide and who we hire.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, there was some, I have some appreciation of Councillor Brown's statement there. I guess my question to Mr. Orwell would be, is it included in the budget? And if it is, of course, then it's up to administration to do what they have to do or not.
Yes, that position already is in the budget.
All right, thank you. Councillor Garner?
Nothing. It's been covered already.
All right, thank you, Councillor Stravas.
So on a go-forward basis, do you want me to rescind this, or do you want me to amend it to say HR manager?
Rescind it.
Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion made, unless it's passed, cannot be rescinded, it can only be withdrawn.
Withdrawn, sorry.
But at the same time, I would suggest that that your motion would be withdrawn, and yet you say, make a statement and say, strongly urge administration to look into hiring a human resources manager. Because I think that's a general feeling of administration and council.
All right, thank you, Councillor Stravas.
Okay, then I'll withdraw that, but then I'll make a statement that council should, that administration should take a look seriously at hiring an HR manager. So that's what you want from me. Okay.
All right.
Now then, while we're on that topic, let me keep going, because I also feel that is pertinent to the town to have a health and safety. Is that a manager or a coordinator? I'm not quite sure what the last person was. And I feel that administration, we shouldn't be, I was against this before, and we shouldn't be contracting it out. This is, we've got 100 and some employees, and we should have a dedicated employee to look after the health and well-being of our employees.
Let me just clarify that question with Mr. Orwa. Is that position was just vacated here in the last few months, I think? Is that correct?
Yeah, originally the position was a full-time position, and there was an individual that was in there, but that position.
Yes.
But that particular individual resigned,
Yes.
and after the departure of that particular individual, this thing was health and safety was contracted out. So now we have a contractor that comes in here from time to time.
Ah, I
So we
see.
don't have
Okay.
anybody in-house.
So we do have a budget for a full-time health and safety manager. Is that is in the budget already?
I'll defer this one to Gary. Not the budget itself, but between the coordinator and somebody senior than a coordinator to handle this area.
There was budget for it, yes, but I don't have access to that budget this year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Thames?
I would suggest, Councillor Strovis, rather than that we just, as a standing item, we defer this to our CEOs, both the HR and the health and safety, and that they can bring it back to our next council meeting, because we're putting them on the spot and we're doing a lot of guessing. But I think we need to give it back to our CEOs and let them report back to us at our next meeting, and we can move forward from there.
All right, thank you, Councillor Broom. Okay, very good. All right, Councillor Chavez, you're okay with that?
Yes, Your Worship. I think it's a good way to get the wheels in motion for administration to take a look at that and bring it back to council then.
Our CEOs are comfortable with that also?
Yes, I think we are comfortable, and from what I've heard, we have the liberty to start the process right away.
All right, great, thank you. Any other standing item requests? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is not a new standing item request through Mr. Shearer. Regarding of discussion, Mr. Shearer, and the motion made by council at the previous meeting regarding the garbage cans. Could you give an update, please, on how many people have requested an additional small garbage brown container, please?
I don't have that information.
Okay, that's fine.
Ms. DeBona, maybe she could text me. She's probably watching, and we'll let you know that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank
you,
you.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other standing requests? I just have one. Basically, we received an email from an individual related to the required face masking bylaw. So I think that's something we need to have some discussion on and potential direction to our administration. So there was a fairly lengthy email and/or petition attached to that. So I believe that's very pertinent to be discussing here at today's meeting. I would certainly welcome any other comments or suggestions from Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I read that email and attached petition as well. I mean, I suppose we could rescind our mandatory face mask bylaw, but in my opinion, while there's a public health order in place that requires a mask, it's kind of a moot point whether we have a mask bylaw in place or not. So to me, whether we rescind it or not, people still have to wear masks, so I would leave it until the government of Alberta makes a change.
All right, thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship. I think probably maybe what needs to be done is a little bit of education for the residents of Taber and the MD that it is a public health order and it is directed by the province. So perhaps a little bit of education could go out in our newsletters and maybe on Facebook that the like Councillor Firth said, it's a moot point because it's covered by the provincial government, and they can ask all they want to withdraw our face covering bylaw, but it's still covered by the provincial government. And if they do some social media about it and put it in the monthly newsletter, maybe it'll help to clear that up for the residents.
All right, thank you. And I would echo both what Councillor Firth and Councillor Strauss has to say. The Alberta Health Service Order clearly supersedes any bylaw within the province, particularly the face mask bylaw in that regard. So it is definitely a moot point as far as that goes. But I would agree that the educational aspect is probably important, and we're certainly not trying to ignore this gentleman's concern and or the people he represents related to the petition involved and the legwork that went into going through the petition process. So, but again, it really is an educational point, and it doesn't matter one or the other whether we withdrew our bylaw or not. The Alberta Health Order is still in place, and there's no current end in sight. So that one does supersede everything else as far as that particular topic. Mr. Sure, yes.
I just received a text from Mr. Bonner. We've only had one inquiry about an additional garbage bin.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Any other standing item requests? All right, then we are done till our delegations arrive. So could I have a motion to recess and reconvene at 5 p.m. for the start of our delegation proposal? Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I also move that we recess till 5 p.m.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. right, if we could reconvene the meeting, please. On to item number 7, delegations. Item 7.1, delegation, Tabor Golf Club and Communities in Bloom. Councillor Strauss?
Yes, Your Worship. Before we get into this, I just want to make a statement, and this is from the MGA, item 173. A councillor does not have a peculiar interest by reason only of an interest that a councillor or a member of the councillor's family may have by being a member of a director of a nonprofit or a service club. Just so that you all know that I am on the board of the Tabor Golf Club, so just put that up front so you're all aware, because this question has come up in past meetings with different service clubs, just for clarification.
All right, fair enough, thank you. Councillor Bruin?
So are you declaring a pecuniary interest or no?
No, I'm saying that I'm good to be here.
That's good.
All right, Mr. Orwa, on to item 7.1, Tabor Golf Club, Communities in Bloom.
Yes, His Worship. So we do have the delegation here, and I think we'll start with the Tabor Golf Club. You can see Brian is already in here, and we're waiting for part of the delegation from Community in Bloom. And so just present, but I think I'm not very sure whether is the other gentleman coming or.
He's here now.
Okay, that's good then. Thank you very much. He's already in here, so we can proceed. So Brian, just proceed.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gladys, welcome. Mr. Tams?
Should we share this microphone or?
Can do, yeah. That's what's going to have to work there, actually, if you're both speaking.
Maybe one at a time.
6 feet.
Close enough?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that works. All right, Mr. Gladys?
Okay, I'm here representing the Tabor Golf Club. We're looking for some financial funding for a project that we're working with Communities in Bloom, and hopefully with a company out of Vauxhall, Richardson's, I can't remember the Pioneer, and the Kiwanis Club could be on this project, and then with the town, hopefully all of us could work together to beautify the way that the golf course looks when you come north on Highway 36 and you get to Highway 3. We're looking to eventually, and maybe even this year, build a new shop. The architect that's going to be designing it is looking to put it so it's bordering the property line, and also having a fence come up to it from both sides, which will block seeing piles of sand and gravel and topsoil and stuff like that. We also want to put lights on the building, shining onto the cart path for people who walk their dogs in the evening. They can see in that part. Kiwanis Club is looking to possibly put solar motion lights further down on that pathway around the golf course. Communities in Bloom is looking to do their thing with flowers, trees, shrubs, rocks. The Tabor Golf Course could also run a sprinkler system from our existing system to keep that stuff growing, because there's no sense planting a bunch of plants and then they die on you. So it's got to be watered. So we have that capacity to doing that also.
All right, thank you. Mr. Towns, do you have something to add to that also?
Yeah, I'm here representing the Communities in Bloom, and we've been kind of working around this project for, I think, going back like 5-6 years, I believe, and it was in the budget as what the way it was structured. I think 5 years ago, it went into the budget as a $30,000 donation to the golf course. As long as the golf course had gift in kind, which they do have, like, plenty of labor lined up, et cetera, and then in recent times they have figured out that they could probably put a new maintenance shop there, and Richardson Pioneer, more likely than not, They're still working on that piece, but we'll fund a large part of that. So we'd like to dovetail it all together, do the landscaping, hopefully like have a nice welcome to Tabor sign, Tabor Golf Club sign, perhaps Communities in Bloom sign, and Richardson Pioneer, and just to have like a way better presentation to that area. It would be about 200 meters wide, including the front of the shop. So we could be doing up to 150 linear meters of beautification there. And we did some mock-ups, but they're not that great. So I figured I'd just leave that. You guys, you're all familiar with the area there. That's our ask. And the ladies are all in on like helping with design and how the plantings go. We talked with Pinnacle Plants about it, and they're willing to do a design draw up for us, and away we go. We would like to start the project hopefully by September, like lay the base work down because there's going to have to be some berms built and that sort of thing, and the irrigation in there, and then hopefully get to planting around September.
One other thing, we all know we had a bad windstorm in January. The Tabor Golf Course lost a dozen huge trees, either totally gone or broken half, or big enough branches that it's going to kill the tree. We've got some money raised now to plant close to 200 trees, and some of those we plan on going over in that area also. I think they're hoping for $20,000 money raised, and I believe they're over 15,000 now.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship. This, of course, this was on a budgetary item that we had a number of years ago, as Mr. Tams laid out. It's a beautification program. When you come up Highway 36, you look at all the tree branches, the gravel, and everything there. At that point, it was designed to enhance that whole area. Put up some signs, Communities in Bloom winners, Town of Tabor logoed sign, and all. So this is it's good to see that these folks have come back and put this all back together again, because it's a huge beautification project when you're coming up Highway 36. So I commend these folks for getting it back on stream. And now the money was committed, and we carried it over for 2 or 3 years. So I don't really know whatever happened to that, if it's still in the budget or if it's been disseminated to something else. But it's a good project.
All right, thank you. Councillor Tams?
I happen to agree with Councillor Strovis. I think it's a great thing, because when you come up Highway 36, or you got to go down Highway 3, it's an eyesore. And I think we've all lived here long enough. We've looked at the eyesore, got so used to it. I think it's a great thing that we're doing something to beautify it. I am totally in favor of this, and I know that we've taken that $30,000 and put it somewhere else, but we also have a council discretionary fund that I think we could fund it out myself.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but just to clarify, so there was $30,000 committed, but it was never spent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Yeah, I think 30,000 was absorbed into our budget, so that's it's not like we still have it there to spend. But I'm in favor of this. I like it. My big concern over this is we're going to have a corporate sponsor of a Richardson Pioneer, or they're going to
Building only.
They're not going to have their sign on the.
No, the landscaping and the fence is like Communities in Bloom and Tabor Golf Course. If they can secure the funding for this building from Richardson Pioneer, it would be branded that building maintenance shop Richardson Pioneer.
Okay, would that be facing from the south going in, big Richardson Pioneer Golf Course, or is it?
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out how their sponsorship will be.
We don't know, but if I'm Richardson Pioneer, I want something sizable if I'm going to put up, $100,000 shop for the golf course.
Yeah, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
That's we have bylaws, I think, in place for sponsorship, so we have to be careful that way. I think it's fantastic they want to do it, and I don't want to discourage them from doing it, but we have to make sure we do that right. But no, I'm in support of beautifying anything we can do coming in Tabor from Highway 36. So
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if the ladies from Communities in Bloom had anything to add to the presentation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner.
Yeah, I think it's a great project, and I think it's long overdue.
Thank you, Councillor Beckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems to me that this is a community effort. Like it looks to me like there's the golf club board, there's Communities in Bloom, the possibility of Kiwanis involvement, correct, sir? Yes. And I think anytime we can help organizations that are volunteers to produce a product which is very, very beneficial to the town and aesthetically pleasing, to say the least, we can support it. My only concern would be, before you begin construction of anything, I like to see the plans, the final plans before we proceed. And also, in the final analysis, when you have many groups involved, who's the main ramrod here? You know what I mean? Who's going to be the main directors of getting this thing done?
All right, thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Before I ask my question, perhaps they want to answer Councillor Beckering's questions.
That directed at one of our two gentlemen here. Councillor Beckering.
What we've talked about up until this point is that we would do the design of the everything outside of that building envelope and get it done up properly with a proper sketch so that all participating people can have an input on it, including the town, that would be approved what we're doing there. And that the golf course would be in charge of that maintenance shop. And we also have talked about what we're going to do there with Communities in Bloom has to go through their board, and we've been working together with our boards back and forth and have had a couple meetings between the two of us. So the ramrod, I don't know if we can point that like exactly at one guy, but we are working together with the golf course and Communities in Bloom. And Councillor Beckering, I don't know if we can separate that into just one. There's one entity that's running that. We have to do this in conjunction with each other. They have certain things that they need, like how much space they need and stuff like that. And we have a certain curb appeal that we want to get done.
As far as the golf course goes, tonight we're having our board meeting, and we're going to be appointing administrators for different committees. And we're going to have a new committee this year, Special Projects Committee. And we'll have somebody who will be the special project administrator, and he'll be the one that'll be in contact with everybody after our meeting tonight at 7 o'clock.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up a minute, thank you for the answers, gentlemen. I was kind of looking for that. And you're going to plant 200 more trees on the golf course, I understand. That's what you're talking about? 200 more trees coming up?
200, yeah.
More trees?
Up to that many.
Up to that many, okay.
We have a budget, and that they figured.
So that won't help my handicap, will it?
You might drop the wind.
Thank you.
They mowed the rough. What more do you want?
Councillor Strauss.
Yeah, just for clarification, Councillor Beckering made a point about seeing the plans and designs. This will all have to go through Municipal Planning Commission and Economic Development for approval, any buildings that are to be constructed and whatnot. So that will be covered. They just can't build a building without authorization.
Thank you.
Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right, I just had a comment, if you don't mind.
I'll wait.
I do recall this project ask quite clearly, and I believe it was roughly 5 years ago, as you said, and I thought it was a great project then. I think it's a great project now. So I would support that 100% as well. And I think working with the other partners involved is only that much greater enhancement for this project to come to fruition and benefit our whole Tabor community and area. So more power to you and all the best to making that work out. Just to clarify, Mr. Orwell, if I can, I believe the money's involved there. It was $30,000 is accurate, and that would have gone back into a reserve fund somewhere. Is that correct?
Yes, His Worship. If at all it was budgeted under the operating budget and it was never used, then it rolls back into the reserves.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. All right. With that, Councillor Thames.
Mr. Move that council thanks the delegation for their presentations And council directs administration to place this request in the 2021 year budget, funded out of operating reserves for further consideration at this time.
All right, thank you. Just to clarify, Mr. Roy, I believe we need that figure, the $30,000, correct?
Yes.
I'll add the $30,000 from operating reserves.
Great, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. On behalf of Communities in Bloom, woo.
Thank you,
cheerful
folks.
We have to thank Communities in Bloom for all the work they do for this town. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for all you do.
Great partnership.
Everyone.
Hey, ladies,
Town has been very supportive of Communities in Bloom.
Ladies, with your masks on, we can still
Great.
see how big your smiles are. So it was a great motion.
Thanks again, everyone. All right.
You're excused?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. All right, on to item 7.2, delegation Old Man Watershed Council. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I think we should be having Shannon on the line. She should, okay.
Oh,
she's
yes,
already-
she is. All right, Mr. Orwa.
If Shannon is ready, she can just proceed. Can you hear us, Shannon?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Please
Thank
proceed.
You. Thank you, Ms. Frank. Go right ahead.
The only thing is it won't let me share my screen. Do you have the presentation with you?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay, so that. All right.
Would you like to just follow along on your end, or do you want me to share my screen somehow?
We're just trying to deal with the technical aspect here now.
Okay.
She could share her screen with us, Al? All right. Shannon, if you could do that with us, that would be great.
It's still saying I can't, but let me see if there's something on my end that's stopping it. Yeah, but when I click on it, it just says that I need permission.
Okay, Al, can we help her out with that?
You should be the presenter now. Are you joined by web or by the desktop app?
I have the app.
Okay.
But the screen sharing link is crossed out. Well, maybe if you have the presentation, you can follow along on your end. Oh, there. Now I can see your screen. Okay, perfect. Some of the colors are a bit weird, but that's okay. We'll go ahead anyway. Well, so thank you very much for your time this evening. I appreciate it. You can go to the next slide. I just want to thank you very much for your support and your donation this year. And I wanted to just give you a bit of information about how we're using those funds. So basically, you're helping us leverage your donation into much more funding because we get a lot of matching grants where we are able to dramatically increase the amount. So you're really helping us do that. And also we are often asked in these grant applications if we have community support and things like that. And so by showing that we have donations from many communities, it shows that we do have support. And there's often things that other funders won't cover, like GST or things of that nature. So your donations really keep us going in that way. So thank you very much. We have many urban donors, and want to just recognize all of them. Next slide, please. So our board of directors is 19 seats, each representing a different sector. So again, we're all about bringing together everybody to work together collaboratively and make sure that we're hearing from all sides of different topics. So we have representatives from health, from irrigation, agriculture, towns, villages, rural municipalities, et cetera, as well as all levels of government and First Nations. So your seat right now for towns and villages is filled by Mayor Blair Painter from Crow's Nest Pass. You can always talk to him as well about different things if you need to. Next slide, please. So right now, as you know, coal mining is one of the big topics in the watershed that's getting a lot of people's attention. Next slide, please. We are being very diligent to provide information to our stakeholders. I've been providing briefing notes to mayors and reeves, for example, and different agricultural groups, basically anyone that asks. We're trying to make sure that everyone has the scientific information that they need to make their own opinion and then submit information as they wish to decision makers, both federally and provincially. Right now, we do have 2 coal mines in the Crow's Nest Pass area that are being reviewed. One is Grassy Mountain, is federal and provincial, and Tent Mountain is only provincial because it's a bit smaller. And we're expecting decisions on those late this year or early next year, so we don't know yet if those are going to go ahead. Tent Mountain only just submitted their terms of reference for their environmental impact assessment, and comments are due back for that one on April 5th. So we've been doing some analysis of what are the potential watershed impacts, been sharing our stakeholder concerns as well. As I'm sure you've heard, there's quite a few concerns around the potential for water quality contamination and selenium in particular. And so the big question is, how far downstream could that potentially go, and at what concentrations? Because that's really what matters. The fish concentration, like the guideline, is 2 micrograms per liter. For livestock and agriculture, it's 20 micrograms per liter, and for human drinking water, it's 50 micrograms per liter. And so we want to make sure that we don't go above those thresholds. In terms of the town of Taber, obviously the main implication would be protecting your drinking water source. So again, it would be trying to figure out how far downstream potential contamination can go and at what concentrations. And I don't want to get into this, it's pretty complicated, but I'm happy to answer your questions at the end. So we'll go to the next topic, please. Similarly, the water allocation order has been in the news a lot lately for the Old Man River Basin, and this is sort of related to coal mines as well, and the government is looking to change this order. Because we're in a closed basin, and of course people cannot get new licenses, as you know, but there are 2 orders that do allow for new licenses, and the Old Man River Basin order is one of them. Next slide, please. And so this one is, the changes that they're proposing are basically to get rid of the limits on specific types of use and just have one overall limit where any type of use could apply. They still have to have a review and public comments, but the idea is to make it easier for development. Again, for the town, your license is much older than 2003, I'm sure, so you should not be impacted in times of shortage because of first in time, first in right. But we are hearing quite a bit of concern from the agriculture sector in particular, who would be losing their exclusive access to this water that was set aside for irrigation, and also just the concern around kind of the use it or lose it attitude, that this is possibly, a slippery slope. So we're again providing information and answering questions and encouraging people to speak up to their elected MLA. Next slide, please. So now I'll give you an overview of some of our projects as well that we've been working on this year. Next slide, please. We have continued to focus a lot of our time and boots on the ground out in the headwaters restoring stream banks, both on public land and private land. We get a lot of volunteers out to plant willows, and that's been a really rewarding project, seeing them grow back and knowing that they're improving water quality and protecting those creeks. Next slide, please. Another big focus has been education. So we set up education stations out at campgrounds and other places where there's a lot of people, and we ask them to pledge to an action that they will take to protect their watershed. That's what the little sign is on the bottom left, where the kids are saying, for the love of Beauvais Lake. I can't quite read it. I will clean up after myself. And so this is a great way that we found that people are very willing to take action when they take a pledge. So that's been really successful. Next slide, please. We have really good partnerships with our Indigenous communities. We've been supporting grassland restoration projects, seed banks, and restoring grasslands. Also riparian and range health assessments, so they can track the health of their land and over time and know which direction it's headed. We've also been doing some aquatic monitoring training using invertebrates that live on the bottom of streams. Next slide, please. One of our rural focus projects is the Watershed Legacy Program, where we've been investing in riparian restoration primarily through off-site watering systems and riparian fencing along stream banks and around spring development. So as you can see in the picture, this is a really clean spring where you can drink the water right out of the trough. And through this, we've been able to protect a lot of creek banks. We also support garbage cleanups, invasive species, weed pulls, things like that through this program. It's been really successful over the years. Next slide, please. And this program is supported by our rural donors, mainly the rural municipalities and irrigation districts. So just want to thank them for their support as well. Next slide, please. We are always doing youth education as much as possible, taking kids out on field trips when that was a thing in the past. But now we've had to move to virtual presentation, so we've been doing that instead, and hoping to get back in the field soon. Next slide, please. We have a couple new projects for this fiscal year that I'll just touch on. Next slide, please. So one of them is all about uniting rural agricultural producers and urban consumers, because we found that there's a bit of a gap there where the urban consumers don't understand where their food comes from, or they have concerns about how it's produced, and rural producers feel like they're not understood and that they're getting a bit of a target on their back. And so we've been working to bring people together and make sure that we can work together on issues and really support each other locally. So this is something we just started this year, and you'll be seeing a lot more of it in the next 2 years, where we'll be doing a lot of educational videos and written articles and communications materials to really help unite these two groups. Next slide, please. And lastly, our other new project is a monitoring project where we're actually using those invertebrates that live on the bottom of creeks to see what the water quality is and the health of the creek. It's one of the best ways that you can monitor. And so we just started doing this. We did 7 sites last year and hope to do 10 to 15 in the next 3 years. So that's giving us a good idea of the health of our creeks and rivers that have a gravelly bottom, so primarily in the western areas. Next slide, please. Well, we do have lots of ways for you to keep in touch. We have our monthly newsletter. We're on all the social media channels. And I encourage everyone to sign up for a free membership. You only have to do it once now, and it will automatically renew. And you don't have to do it every year anymore, so that saves you some time. And on our website, we have a lot of blogs about the recent coal mining issues and how we do restoration projects and what that looks like. So I encourage you to check out our website for a lot more information. Next slide, please. And happy to take questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Councillor Beckering here, Shannon. I was involved in the Old Man Watershed Council 20 years ago, and at that time was considerable participation by the University of Lethbridge. They had a water department at that time with various professors being involved in the Old Man Watershed Council. Is that still the same?
Yes, we certainly do work with the university and the college both on different projects over the years, and continue to do that. We have an academia seat on our board that is filled by a professor from the university. So yeah, we definitely maintain those ties on different projects.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Shannon, I just had a question related. You talked about, I think it's 2 micrograms per liter. That's the contaminant that's allowable. Is that the measurement you're referring to?
Yeah, those are the guidelines. The 2 micrograms per liter is the guideline for protection of aquatic health. And so if we see selenium concentrations going over that, then we know there's going to be impacts on fish and invertebrates. So we want to stay below that. Okay,
fair enough. I'm just wondering, number one, how often do you do that kind of testing, and or if it is slightly over, how do you manage it after that is recorded accordingly?
So Environment and Parks does the monitoring for most of the rivers and creeks. I mean, they don't monitor every one. There's a few that they monitor. The main stem of the Old Man River has a few stations. At Fort McLeod, we know that the concentration is 0.6 micrograms per liter, and I know at the Highway 36 bridge, it's about 1 micrograms per liter on average, but some, it fluctuates. They take a water sample monthly, and if the coal mines go ahead, the concern is that there could be an inadvertent breach of a treatment pond. If there was a big storm, for example, they could be overflowed, or there could be seepage, and so it's really difficult to control, as we've seen in the Elk Valley, in the Elk River and into Koocanusa Reservoir and the Kootenai River downstream. It's gone very far downstream, and they haven't been able to stop it. And also in northern Alberta, downstream, there is some studies that show there has been contamination downstream up there as well. It hasn't gone as far downstream, but it does cause fish deformities, and they have reproductive failure. In Sparwood, for example, like one of their groundwater wells was contaminated, so they had to close it and drill a new one. So it's not really easy to control. It's very difficult to treat huge amounts of water that are running off of a large land base like a coal mine.
Great, thank you. So if I'm understanding that correctly, so if you do find it over the ideal 2 micrograms per liter, then you're just trying to take steps, number one, where it's coming from, and then try to mitigate it and deal with it as best you can?
Yeah, the coal companies basically would be responsible for treating it, and I guess the question is will they be able to? Because we've seen instances where they haven't been able to. But hopefully, if they were approved, they would be able to treat it, and there wouldn't be any breaches of a treatment pond or any accidental spills or anything like that.
All right, thank you, Councillor Broom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems like the Old Man Watershed Council is anti-coal mines. Seems pretty obvious what you're saying. And we've never found anything over 2 micrograms in the rivers yet? Or, explain that, please. Like, are you guys against the coal mines?
So, no, we don't take positions on issues. Our
It seems
goal
like
is
you
to
are.
provide information. And so we've been, really just trying to provide the scientific information to people and let them make their own decisions. We completely acknowledge that there can be benefits, economic benefits and benefits for communities. And most of the questions we've been getting, though, have been about water contamination. So, that's where we've been trying to answer the questions, and that's, water is our expertise. So we're doing our best to answer that. But in terms of the micrograms, so the coal mines are not approved yet for the Old Man Watershed. There's 2 that are in review, and we don't have decisions yet. We're expecting that late this year or maybe even early next year. And so we wouldn't expect there to be any runoff or contamination yet. But if those mines are approved, then we've been recommending monitoring and stations and where those should be, and mitigation measures that could be put in place to make sure that any potential contamination would be avoided and minimized. And because we definitely don't want to see that going downstream and impacting municipalities and our irrigation districts and all other users, because it can't be easily treated. That's the main concern. And it can impact livestock and crops and humans.
All right, thank you, Councillor Broom.
It just seems to me you haven't answered my question. You haven't found anything over 2 micrograms yet, though, have you?
No, not in our watershed.
Okay, thank you.
The examples that I gave were in Elk Valley and in northern Alberta.
All right, great, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, thank you, Ms. Frank, for your presentation. Appreciate that so much. And with that, somebody willing to make a motion?
Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council extends a thank you to the Old Man Watershed Council for their delegation presentation, and that Council accepts the presentation from the Old Man Watershed Council for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now, Mr. Great. Thank you. Moves us along to item number 8, media inquiries. Any media inquiries that we're aware of, Mr. Irwa?
No media inquiries today.
All right, thank you. With that, then, I would request a motion to move into closed session.
Do you want to take a small break now?
5 to 10 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Sure. Okay.
All right. Short break, and then move into closed session.
With that, Mr. Mayor, move that we take a short break for 5 minutes and reconvene in closed session.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.